Good morning, everybody. Thank you very much for joining us today. We've got Vero here today from Lisbon Street Art Tours, and we're going to be talking a little bit about the beautiful street art that's seen in Lisbon, as some people will have probably seen and been aware of, and also what you guys do and how you've come about to doing it as well. So thank you so much for joining us.
Hello, thank you, Claire, for giving us this opportunity
It's great
to promote ourselves, but also to talk about the graffiti and street art scenery in Lisbon as well. Yeah,
it's fabulous. I mean, I think it's myself. I'm really quite obsessed with the street art in Porto and Lisbon especially. So I think it's even more, and it's incredibly beautiful, isn't it? It really is art. Absolutely, really is art. So it's great to have somebody who knows a bit more about it, because I just appreciate it and I don't know anything about it. So it's nice to have somebody who knows more. So maybe you can just tell us a little bit about, I don't know, maybe if you want to fill us in on kind of where did this movement come from, and where, how did it all, why did Lisbon become a place that became known for street art? Just a quick overview of that would be amazing to understand.
Okay. I'm gonna try to do the short version at least.
Yeah.
But if you look back at history in general to graffiti street art, we go back to the 60s, 70s in the US mainly. And it's only in the 80s when this would come to Europe to also influence, of course, the youngsters from Portugal.
Mm-hmm.
But the interesting thing with Portugal in general is actually how the revolution contributed very much to people occupying public space, using buckets of paint, brushes to express themselves. And this is kind of interesting how this mixture of this underground culture that kind of grew in the US in the 80s kind of got mixed with this political propaganda. Here, the streets really became like a playground, but for some to be really like expressing this kind of identity crisis, this young movement of creating a tag, while at the other, or creating a name, while at the other side, you also have this more political movement using the streets as a way to express themselves, to democratize public space and use it as a way to highlight what was important, what they want to fight for at least.
Yeah.
And this is kind of very interesting here in Portugal in particular. But I also always try to say to people, okay, if we look back at our own childhood, or even the childhood of our kids, if we already have, like there's always a moment in time that a person, a young kid, wants to take a pen or a stift and write on the walls.
So true. I have a 2-year-old who's doing it all the time right now. He's a real graffiti artist for sure.
In the end, we have to support this. We have to encourage this.
Yeah.
In the end, it's a human threat. It's something in our blood to leave something behind of us. And no matter if we stamp it as vandalism, if we stamp it as art, if we stamp it as political propaganda, this actually doesn't really matter. It's something in us. And the beautiful thing, in the streets, there's always something for everybody. You say like there's always something that will reach somebody.
Yeah.
And some people will like more graffiti, some people will like more these big installations, some people, and this is actually the beauty of the diversity itself.
Absolutely. And it is very diverse, isn't it? As you say, I think over the years, I mean, I'm a child of the 80s, so I kind of remember when even back then in the UK where I was growing up, it was very much like a rebellious, not people didn't like it. It was like not something that people appreciated as art, but definitely not. It was just seen as vandalism, and that was it. But mostly, I think because of the political side of it, and people didn't like the political side of it. So I think maybe more than against the actual creation of something being done on a wall, for example, it was more the message they didn't like, not the actual doing of it, but people just like to blame it on the doing it. They didn't want to accept that it was the message.
And this is also kind of interesting because when, at least here in Lisbon, you really see this boost, or could see this boost after the world crisis in 2008, 2009. A lot more youngsters started to occupy the streets.
Yeah.
And especially these areas like Baixa, Bairro Alto, Chiado, the more historical protected areas, at least they were very much vandalized which led as well to the government to decide to intervene to clean. But besides to just clean, the government also decided here, the city council, to create a project that would support these artists or find a way to create
Amazing.
opportunities for these artists at least. And for the last 10, 11, 12 years now, Lisbon really grew very much in being just a place to clean the city, to stop the vandalism. They also became a place that would embrace artists, would embrace graffiti artists, street artists that wanted
Uh,
something illegal to nowadays to something
It's
legal.
fantastic,
And,
isn't it? I mean, that just goes to show how, and you know, you see how Lisbon is getting really known. I mean, I know a lot of people who, one of the biggest things people talk about in Portugal, especially the cities, is how beautiful the art is, how beautiful the street art is. And it really is street art. It's not an act of vandalism. It really is appreciated by all sorts of diverse people as well now, at different ages, different backgrounds. It's not just a young person's thing and young people appreciate it. I think it's really genuinely seen as an art form, which, like you say, maybe the way that Lisbon has gone about enabling people and embracing it rather than just seeing it as something bad has turned around that way of it being seen, isn't it? It's incredible.
yeah.
Oh, how lovely.
Yeah, and Lisbon is also very known for, besides the street art, as we know it with the painting, like all the colors in general. If you compare it to more north, it's a very different feeling. At least as well, even though I love Porto as well very much. It's more underground
Don't worry,
for
anyone.
us.
Don't worry.
But yeah, I think Lisbon, it has a lot of colors and it attracts a lot of artists also because of its light itself. Also the streets with the cobblestones. Okay, now a lot of sidewalks are changing because they say because of the elderly, but also because of tourism. It's more safe in the end. But the cobblestones of these, it's very authentic. It has a lot of charm in the end. And the paintings on the walls, the colors on the walls became something the last years very important, not only in the city center, because they still try to kind of control this mostly, but also in social neighborhoods, in the surrounding areas, in more industrialized parts.
Yeah.
Street art is really being pushed into the bigger metropolitan of Lisbon, not just the city center. And
Yeah.
this also creates more flow between the places, pushes people to also explore different areas of Lisbon, which is also very beautiful.
Yeah,
Definitely.
true, very true. Yeah, and it is so beautiful. What was it that made you guys get into doing this then? Like, how did you find yourself creating tours and taking, and, you know, trying to show people? What was that
Well,
that happened?
well, when I moved to Lisbon, I thought, okay, from now I'm really gonna focus on my research. I want to be an anthropologist.
Okay.
But I still didn't really find out how could I become or be an anthropologist different. I didn't really like to just write an article. Maybe ends up in some library or something. And in
Yeah.
the projects and then the people that I met here when I moved here, it was like little puzzle pieces. I met a lot of people in the graffiti and street art scenery, also with some volunteer work and some projects. And this led us to meeting the people that we met. They were already involved, and like one of the common people that we met started this project about 10 years ago now, almost actually. And when or 9 years more or less, and when she started this, it was really much her way. She was a Dutch girl living here. It was very much her way to kind of immerse people into what she discovered in Lisbon herself. So we took over the project when she moved abroad. Me and my friends. My friend now left Portugal, unfortunately, but we are now like a small team that actually keeps on going. For me, in
Oh.
the beginning, it was more like a fieldwork experience. Okay, before I would always drink a chinginha before I would stand in front of a picture. I was too nervous.
Oh.
But it was very much to immerse people into what we learned. Learn through interviews with artists, learn through going to festivals, learning to go to the Urban Creativity Conference that also happens every year. So inspiring. And meet academics, meet residents, meet artists, meet galleries, meet all these different people and say, okay, everything that I learned, me myself at least, is through what I learned to read
Yeah.
or what is painted on the walls. And this
Yeah.
was so inspiring for me that I thought, okay, it's kind of interesting. if we share this to the people. And later on, the project developed also into our collective, street art collective, with actually, instead of just doing a tour with some people showing street art, showing graffiti, the different style techniques, the history, and so on, we also wanted to kind of engage people. Okay, every participant to our workshops and tours, they kind of help us to create new pieces.
Wow.
We're a small collective, of course, we're small scale, but
Yeah.
little by little, we started to focus on these areas, for now, mainly in the city center, that are very vandalized, to do projects with different artists that we met along the way,
Oh,
from here and abroad, to always represent like a topic of social interest. If this was okay,
such a nice idea.
sustainability,
Yeah.
women rights, because we started as a collective of only women, so that's like a celebration every year, a must. And yeah, this is more or less how it developed. It was really just like a passion from research, from an academic research, that yeah became
Oh, that's
big.
fabulous. I think that so it really was quite an organic growth then, wasn't it? Really, a natural
Mm,
growth of its own, which is just
yeah,
lovely. It's the loveliest way, isn't it? I think when it's a passion that suddenly
yeah.
comes alive in you, and then you can live it, and you can't not, because it doesn't. It's completely infectious. I think when somebody has a good passion and they share that sort of information with other people who want to know more, it
Mm,
comes across so much, doesn't it? And I know you guys are so passionate about what you do, I mean, I must come and take a tour with you one day, because I would love to. I mean, I really think I've always had such good things, and I think, as somebody who moves to Portugal, or maybe even has lived in Portugal a long time, it's a really great way of understanding some of the background and some of the history of Portugal, not just of Lisbon or of a city, but it's a very much looking into the Portuguese history in its own right, isn't it? And how that movement has grown with it. So it's fascinating on so many levels. It really is.
yeah. The
Oh,
beautiful thing is also that we like, okay, we mainly attract foreigners still, outsiders, travelers, nomads, and so on. But in the last years, we also know, and we also tried, I mean, pre-COVID, of course, we also noticed that there's more Portuguese people itself also interested. People even from Lisbon that join us and that even tell us like, okay, I am from Lisbon. I lived all my life in Lisbon, and still I didn't know. Like,
wow.
okay, of course, the history of the revolution and everything, yes, but like some of the places that we pass, or the connection of the places with the artworks and things like this. And this is kind of very warming for me, because I'm myself an outsider. I moved here about 9 years ago. I have a Portuguese dog, a Portuguese boyfriend to compensate. But at least for us, it's very rewarding to also
Yeah.
hear this kind of feedback as well. And of course, we keep on also experiencing or experimenting with different ways to which we also see like a difference in audience. There's more younger people, like kids nowadays, exposed to it, so they're more curious about it. So we also try to adapt a bit our activities to going from young kids to team buildings with a firm of lawyers. Like, this whole contrast is very interesting to also kind of adapt, um, and to trigger people, to show, okay, whatever you learn here and now in Lisbon, if you go to Porto, if you go to Brussels, to any other city in this world, you take this with you.
Yeah. Yeah.
And yeah, a lot of artists nowadays, they also travel between a lot of different places. Okay, again, pre-COVID, post-COVID, but it's an interesting way to see what you also say, explore the city and learn more
Absolutely.
in a very playful way.
Absolutely, it is. Yeah, I think it's a fascinating way to understand, and even even just walking around, you get to see different areas of the city that you maybe didn't even know existed, and there's so many levels to it, aren't there? And so many to understand the background of areas and how areas have changed and things. It's just wonderful. I think it's great, absolutely great. So I can see so many people being interested in taking a part in it. What I'll do is I will also share your. I'll pop it up here now quickly. So here is the link to your website. Yeah, so people can come and
Thank you.
find you. And of course, you're on the Pure Portugal services directory as well, if people want to find you on there. What I'll do when I share our video out to everybody, I'll put a little link so people can come and find you more easily in the information that I share as well. But are you still doing tours at the moment? Are you still taking on things like that? So post, well, nearly post, hopefully COVID times. I don't know what's soon, but okay. So you're out actively, and still people can come and book to see you.
Yeah, we have like 3 super passionate guides
Oh,
ready to immerse people in different languages and different ways.
fabulous. Well, look, I really hope to be one of those people at some point to come and join in, because like I say, myself personally, it's a huge interest. And as I say, there's a 2-year-old who probably will join in and add to some of the street art.
The youngest was like 11 months, I think, more or less.
Wow, that's so sweet, isn't it?
Probably they don't go home with a lot of information.
Hey, you never know. It's a subconscious thing, isn't it? Maybe they could be the next big street artist. You never know.
Let's hope so.
Thank you so much for just giving us this little bit of an insight today. I'm really grateful of your time. And of course, if people see this and they want to know a bit more, they can ask questions on the video and get in touch with you that way. And maybe if there's a demand, or if people have a specific things they want to know more about, we can always make another video a bit longer in the future that covers more of things, more history of things and things like that, because I'm sure people will find it such a fascinating topic anyway. So thank you very much for your time. And people, make sure you do book to go and see these lovely tours, because I think it's well worth the time, isn't it? Well worth it.
Yay.
Thank you very much again. We'll catch up with you soon, I'm sure. Okay.
Yes.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.